We're entering the Thunderdome. It's time for Ultimate Pit Fight. Hi friends, welcome back to Nearly Sane Games. I'm Neil, and this is the Armory Report. Now this week's Armory event was an Ultimate Pit Fight. So let's take a look at the deck that I brought. Alright, let's take a look at this Ultimate Pit Fight deck. First off, we're going to take a look at our champion, our hero here. I've decided to go with Rhinar. Now, I think that I debated a little bit on who I was going to bring to this Ultimate Pit Fight, and I finally landed on Rhinar. I was thinking about doing Levia, but I think that Rhinar has a little bit better upside for what I'm trying to do, and potential to close out a game in the late game. I was also considering Oldhim. I think Oldhim, I could probably make a better deck, but I think Oldhim will also put a target on my head, and I think that people are a little bit scared of Oldhim. They don't want his drawn out block everything tactics. So I think Rhinar is a little bit, excuse the pun, but intimidating. And I think that with the way I wanted to build this deck, he was going to be my best choice. Now, his ability is whenever you discard a card with power 6 or more during your action phase, Intimidate. And there's a chance we might use that a little bit in the late game, but certainly in the early game, we're not going to be looking to discard a lot of cards. So for Ultimate Pit Fight, we use a 60-card deck with a young hero, and this is going to be a multiplayer match with, I believe, 5 people at the table. So the important thing is in early game, we don't have a whole lot of threat, but we can still bring in some damage. But in the late game, we're going to need to turn on the gas and be able to perform with that. For his weapon, we're going to be doing Romping Club. I'm looking for an attack that is going to be consistent for me, something I can just throw at my opponent with one card in hand and be able to throw an attack at them just to throw some damage at them. And I think Romping Club is where I landed. Case could be made for Claws, but I'm not really going for an aggressive build. I want to block with 2 cards and attack with 2 cards in the early turns, put on some pressure, but not have necessarily the on-hit effects, and be able to be just doing my thing and hopefully being left alone for a little while. Now, Null Rune, I'm going to have all 4 Null Rune available to me. If there's a wizard at the table, there is potential that I could go all Null Rune. If there are multiple wizards at the table, I definitely want to go all Null Rune. But the likelihood is that the Null Rune, if I need to run Null Rune, is going to be Gloves and Robe. That's only if there's a wizard. If there's not a wizard, it's probably, and we need some arcane damage, it's either going to be nothing at all or potentially the gloves in place of our Gambler's Gloves. But I'd like to have the options available to me depending on what we see at the table. Now, what I would like to use for my main equipment setup, first off, Scabskin Leathers. Blocks 2, then blocks 1 with Battle Worn. Excellent for blocking. And the effect, late game, I think there's potential that we're going to start to, if we're in it for the late game, we might start rolling to get that extra damage through in our head-to-head matches. Depends on our cards, depends on a lot of things, but late game, that might be where that comes in. I don't want to do that early game. Again, this is a game about diplomacy and being good to your enemies for the moment and not get taken out early on. Then we have our Skullcap. Excellent for the battle-worn blocks again. If I have less life than any opponent, just an opposing hero, then it gets +1. So we can use this for a 2-block and a 1-block if we time that out. Now the tunic is questionable in this with this deck. It does have a 1 block if we need it towards the end. The extra resource I think is going to be not needed most of the time. We do have some attacks in here that we can talk about when we get to them that will be useful for the tunic, but for the most part, this is just going to be kind of sitting there and have an extra resource if we get a bait hand or something else. I think barkbone strapping would be fine in this slot, give you the extra block, give you potential for resources when you absolutely need it. I only expect to be using the resource off of this once, maybe twice during the game. Gambler's gloves. Again, this is a fail-safe in case we roll a 1 on our scab skins when we really need it. This is a one-time use, lets us re-roll something. The hope is that we never have to use it. All right, so I've got this broken down into my reds and my blues. This deck only runs reds and blues, and we'll talk through each one of those. First off, we have Wrecker Rob, and we're only running 2 of these. This is an attack that requires 3 cards to use, and you'll discard a card at random to use this attack. It is 8 power. It's a pretty strong attack, but I don't want too much of that. It does also block for 3, which is what we're looking for. But I'm only running 2 of those. In that third slot, I'm running 1 unmovable red. You're going to see a lot of defense reactions in this. We're looking to be ready to block, block, block. If anything, I want defensive reactions in my arsenal pretty much almost at all times. If I don't have that to arsenal, I can put a red attack in there to use as an attack later. If I don't have either of those, I'm not going to arsenal. So this is the first of our defensive reactions. Then we have Smash Instinct. I love this attack. Attacks for 7 with Intimidate, blocks for 3 if we need it as a block. All around great card, does everything that we want it to do. Again, this deck is looking to block with 2 cards and attack with 2 cards. This is the basis of a lot of my commoner decks, and I'm hoping that in the long run that's going to get us to where we need to be. Next up, running another defensive reaction, running 3 Sink Belows. This is an excellent defensive reaction. I'd recommend this in everybody's deck. You're going to have to do some blocking no matter what, and this lets us filter out our hand and potentially get better cards. I'm running 3 of those. I expect to be doing a lot of blocking in Ultimate Pit Fight. 3 Sigils of Solace, red. Again, being Ultimate Pit Fight, I expect there to be a ninja at the table, and I expect ninjas to do awful things. The nice thing about the sigil is I can gain 3 life of it, so it essentially negates 3 Kodachi hits, which is going to be important at some point in the game. And late game, these are, you think you're down to a critical level and you can boost your life back up. In long games, I like to have sigil available. Savage Swing. We talked about having something for the tunic, and this is it. And I'm running 3 red Savage Swings. This is only costs us 1 to attack, but we must discard a random card. But with the tunic counter, we can pay for this and be able to discard the card. So this still gives us a 2-card attack. There's potential that if we roll a good Scab Skins roll, we can use this along with another attack. Potentially off just a blue, depending. Potentially a pretty good attack. If that doesn't pan out, it's also a 3 block. So that also does what we want it to do. Riled Up, running 3 of these. Another 3 cost, 7 power attack. We want to have, every turn, we want to throw a 7 power attack at somebody. That's the plan. It can pull cards out of their hand and generally the consistency it is going to bug people, definitely. Again, another 3 block for us. If we discarded a card with power 6 or more, it gains +1. Probably never going to use that, but if we do, it's there, we can use it. Not planning on it. Here we go with another 7 power, 3 block, 3 cost attack. This is one of the vanilla attacks, which is fine for us. Again, we just want to be throwing 7s all day. Pummel. Pummel is my favorite card for anything that, whenever we have a 4-card hand, I would really like to have one of those cards be a pummel. It's very hard to block against, makes our opponent discard a card if it hits, and a +4 to the attack is a lot. And the pummel always does work. It's always great late game. I really like to have it. Fate Foreseen. Again, more defensive reactions. The Opta one is not the greatest, but there's potential that we can throw a card from the top on the bottom of our deck. And a free defense reaction that blocks for 4. That's what we're looking for here. Excellent card to have. Again, I expect to do a lot of blocking. Enlightened Strike. I only have 2 Enlightened Strikes, but that's what I'm going to be playing. Again, this goes with our 2 cards, and we're going to attack for 7. And if we have a better hand, we can have this have go again and potentially get another attack in there. Maybe there's a club attack, so that the club swings for 4. If we can happen to have 2 pitch available to us, as well as this, then we can swing for 5 and swing for 4, and that'll put on a lot of pressure. Very good. Barraging Beatdown. This is a great card, especially for late game. The fact that it has Intimidate, has already 1 Intimidate built on that. You add that to a Smash Instinct, and you're intimidating 2 cards at random. Very, very good. If we can potentially get a 3rd card out of their hand, then we potentially offer a huge pump. It's also very good because this is a 0 cost with our Romping Club. You drop this and threaten to give your Romping Club +4 if they don't block with 2 non-equipment cards. And you're just pulling cards from their hand, and perhaps not the cards they want you to pull from their hand because of the Intimidate mechanic. Overall, an excellent card. This would be great for late game. Don't want to pressure it so much with early game. Early game, it'd probably be just with the club, but late game, that could be game winning. And then 2 Alpha Rampage. Again, this is kind of similar to Wrecker Romp. We've got the cost to discard a card, but this has Intimidate built onto it, which is great. Potential that you can use this with a Barraging Beatdown late game, Intimidate again, and with the discard, potentially Intimidate a 3rd time, and really go for the knockout punch. I'm only running 2 of these. Again, I don't want to be stuck with a lot of these, since this does cost you 3 cards to actually play. Because of the discard cost, I don't want to have a whole bunch of these, or have these be my only reds that I can play. But when you can play it, it's got a lot of power to it. The 9 power attack is very strong. On top of that, with Intimidate, with discarding a card, potentially intimidating again, very, very strong. Next up, we have our Fuel. These are all blue cards, so we're not quite 50-50, because we have several defensive reactions that we're running, and the sigils, we're not 50-50, but when you take those out, we're really close. We want to have a red attack and a blue pitch card available to us almost every turn, or every turn we would like that. 3 Wrecker Romps. This is one of the best blue cards you can have. Blocks 3, has 6 power to activate Rhinar if we end up discarding it. Still a 6 attack if we need to throw it at our opponent, but great for late game, good for early game fuel. Smash Instinct, love this card. It only attacks for 5, but has Intimidate, blocks for 3, costs 3, everything that we want there. Riled Up, not the best, but it is blue fuel, and attacks for 5 as a blue, not too bad. Blocks for 3 if we need it. Reckless Swing, I'm running 2 of these. Again, another defensive reaction, but blocks for 4. These are very good late game. You still need an additional card, and this can cause you issues if you don't want to discard a card and you want to have the follow-up. But this is a great surprise. Here's 2 damage for you. This can be very game-ending, especially in the late game. I'm only running 2 of these. They can be, since you're discarding a card at random, that can really throw you off and do bad things for you, but it's very good when it does go off. Raging Onslaught, just a good blue card to have, running 3 of those. Blue Pummel. Blue Pummel can still get it done, like the +2, and if it hits discard a card, still excellent. Even if you're only running this, only if you're hitting with this instead of the red Pummel. Still very good. Still running the 3 of those. Excellent if I need it, or pitch in the early game is fine. Pack Hunt. Here is one of my hopefully game-ending cards. And I'm looking at this with its 2 cost, being a blue pitch. I'm expecting to pitch this early, get it back in the late game, and potentially add a Barraging Beatdown to that, and really threaten something that our opponent doesn't want. And having the 2 cost means that there's potential that we could follow that up with a Savage Swing or something along that line. The Intimidate coupled on with another Intimidate would be great. This would be a great card to run for the first attack, provided we got another action point with Scab Skins, and then throw something else as the second attack after we've already intimidated a card or 2 out of their hands. I'm looking for this to help close out games where maybe I couldn't otherwise. Lead the Charge. I'm running a couple of these because gives us the ability to get an extra action point. Also as a blue, only blocks for 2, but there's potential that we can use this and be able to play one of our big cards and follow it up with another big card. Again, I'm looking for this to be late game. I don't really want to reveal quite how much damage my deck can do early game. I don't want to paint a target on myself. I want to slowly and steadily be punching down my opponents. But only running 2 of these. Last ditch effort. I have 1 of these. Again, this is kind of only if we're playing late game, although a 4 attack is not too far off from what my other blues are attacking for. And still blocks for 3, so this all works in here. But if I have no cards in my deck, this gains +4 and go again. And this could be the, if it comes down to it, if I'm fatigued, this can be a very powerful attack. I'm not expecting it to. I'm expecting to block for 3 and be done with this, but if I can hold this on as pitch and keep cycling it through my deck, that's what we're going to do. And in the end, another Barraging Beatdown in blue. Again, the Intimidate is great. Even the threatening of the +2. If I'm swinging with the club and they only want to block with 1 card, that means that's going to beef that up to a 6 attack. And if they're only blocking with 1 card, that's 3 getting through probably. Yeah, so there's my deck. Trying not to stand out too much, but at the same time, I want to be able to present some threat. So let's take a look and see how it did. So for this event, we played 2 rounds with 4 people in each pod. And the first round was myself as Rhinar, and I was next to a Dory and a Dash, and on the opposite side of me was a Briar. Now I was happy to start off with not having to deal with Briar. I didn't even bring in any arcane equipment, and so I was trying to mix up my attacks between Dash and Dory. I knew that Dash was going to be an issue, but I was also very scared of Dory. The big attacks are difficult to decide exactly how to block, and it was kind of my focus to make sure that Dory got taken out. And Briar came back and had some big hits at Dory as well. And I wanted to make sure that Dory did not have a full grip of cards, because Dory's scary when that happens. Also, Dory every now and then would get a counter on Dawnblade, and I just didn't want that to build up. That was going to be a problem. But I still wanted to keep Dash in check, and there's all this kind of political negotiating to try to keep everybody in check. So Dory got down to a low life total, and she actually got down to 4, and I knew that that was my opportunity to take her out. He was down to 2 cards in hand, so I was able to use a Barraging Bronhide to take 1 card out of the hand and swing the club for what was going to be 8, because he did not have 2 non-equipment to block with. And he was down at 4, so I was able to take him out. Of course, he's negotiating that was a poor decision. But it was just basically me, Dash, and Briar that we all needed to deal with. And Dash was pretty much dominating this game at this point. I got down to 1 life. Briar also got down to a low life, and Dash rolled a dice to see who he was going to take out, and decided it was going to be Briar, which really worked in my favor. I don't know that I could have held off Dash that much, but he took out Briar, and then came back. I was throwing 7 attacks every turn, still able to block for 6 every turn. My equipment was dying very quickly, and we were kind of stuck in this loop of I swing for 7, take some cards out of his hand, Dash swings back, can pistol twice, I block with 2 cards, and off we go in this circle. And I wanted to see if I could break out of the circle. So I decided to roll Scab Skins, and I still had my Gambler's Gloves available. Unfortunately, I believe Dash still had a Gambler's Gloves available as well, so I was a little nervous about that. But I rolled for Scab Skins, rolled a 1, and popped my gloves, rolled for Scab Skins, rolled another 1. Yeah, and I arsenaled and passed. And that was enough. And Dash came back and obliterated me, and there was not much I could do about it. But that was enough to get me in the winner's circle. So for round 2, it was myself and Dash against a KO and a Prism. Now, we got done with our match a little bit earlier than they got done with their match, so we were able to kind of sit in and watch the end of KO and Prism beat each other up. And Prism was just very, very strong, very dominating position, and it was pretty obvious pretty quickly that Prism had just won that match, and there was really nothing KO could do. So when we started up that match, the new match, I was next to Dash and Prism, and KO went first, and threw an immensely powerful attack at Prism. I think it was an 18 power attack is what that ended up being. Uh, Very, very scary. It really cut down Prism, despite Prism, all of Prism's block, had a lot of power there. And Prism decided that that he was going to play very defensively, and for his turn just arsenaled and pass, no attacks. Well, I wasn't having that. I knew Prism could not be left to uh, just do what Prism wants to do, so I immediately started attacking in on Prism. I was pretty confident that Dash was also scared of Rhinar, or scared of KO, and would consistently throw attacks at him for how explosively dangerous he could be. So I kept smashing in at Prism, and again throwing these 6 attacks, nothing too horrendous, or 7 attacks, and of course that didn't make any friends with Prism. But KO also wasn't friends with Prism either, and so we both had kind of a good back and forth on putting pressure on Prism, and we got Prism down to 2 life pretty quickly in the game, and it was then my job to make sure that Prism didn't keep any auras on the field. I would swing my club and pop the auras if necessary, and then just keep taking cards out of Prism's hand. I didn't want Prism to because Dash and KO were going back and forth. KO would sometimes come back and attack Prism, but I wanted to make sure that Prism did not have a full grip of cards at any time. That was my primary concern, and eventually I was able to, and occasionally Dash would throw a pistol at my direction, and usually I would take it. So it was, I found the opportunity to take out Prism, and that was with I believe I had a lead the charge turn, and I was able to throw a 7 power attack at Prism, which Prism did a full block for, and then throw the club at Prism, and that was enough to finally get through and take Prism out. So now we're at a table with KO, Rhinar, and Dash, and it's scary. And we were, I believe, all at around 10 life when we hit this point, and what can I say? KO's a scary beast, and he was kind of back and forth deciding who to swing at, and I tried to keep quiet and not attract a whole lot of attention, but I was still throwing damage at KO, and eventually Dash took KO out and then started working on me, and this was kind of a losing battle. By this point, Dash had 2 of the go again items and could throw a lot of pistol fire my way, which was difficult to block and difficult to retaliate with. I was able to swing 7s again all day. This time I did not go for a Scabskin Leather's turn. I had used it earlier. I'd used my gloves to re-roll, and I was able to get a double attack in there, but once KO was out, Dash just came full force at me, and with 1 card can fire the pistol multiple times, and it really wore down my health very quickly. And in the end, I got down to 1, and dash through 5 attacks at me, and I was only able to block 4 of them. So that was that for that. In the end, I think that my deck did exactly what it was supposed to do. We were blocking with 2 cards and swinging for 7 every turn, or close to it. If we couldn't do that, we had the club. I believe I had a pummel attached to a club in there, which is always good. And just kind of holding back and holding my own. I was able to, in both the games, I was I kept a very high life total, especially compared to the other people. And I don't know if I had pushed to kill Dash with KO and kind of teamed up with that, if that would have worked better for me. Uh, but I mean, KO is very explosive, and um, if he gets the rolls, it's very dangerous. But I might have been able to get more lucky with KO, have him have a bad roll, be able to swing back a real big attack, and maybe get there with that. But Ultimate Pit Fight's all about the politics, and you really want to choose a deck that's not going to be um, threatening just by playing the deck. I think that if you bring Briar, you're going to attract a lot of attention. I think KO as well. If you get one explosive attack, you're going to be the target at the table. So you want to have something. I think Dash is an excellent choice. You can build up over time, and in the end game is the strongest. And I think uh, something like Dory attracts attention. This is the reason I did not play Oldhim. I didn't want to suggest that I'm going for fatigue that puts a target on your back. And everything is about politics. So I was very happy with how all that turned out, and happy with the deck overall. I think the extra defense reactions are very much needed. I did like the sigils in there as well. All of that I think worked very well for me. Um, I think the only thing I might consider is taking out Lead the Charge. I don't think it's quite as effective as I want it to be. But all in all, it was a fun time. If you haven't played any Ultimate Pit Fight, I would strongly suggest you get in and try to find a match for that, and and have a lot of fun with it. So until next time, I'm Neil, and this has been the Armory Report.